Dr. Brittany McGeehan is here. And Brittany, when we started talking about you being on the podcast, I went to your website like I always do if I'm, looking at potential guests. And I saw one sentence on your website and I was like, I don't care what else. Like, I don't care what else she said. She could say nothing else. This could be a 5-second podcast interview with just you saying that line. And it would be just the bomb. Like, wow. So I was like, I have to have her. And then when we talked, you started talking about the drama triangle and all of this amazing good stuff that we're going to talk about today. So welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Do you remember what the line is? Do you want to say the line? Do you remember or do you want me to do it? Do you remember
do it. I don't remember all of it. So yes.
Okay, so this is the line on your website where it's like, that's all you need to know for today. It was, if you continue to behave like their mother, he will continue to behave like a child.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. And it's not intentional, right? We don't intentionally go, I'm going to treat him like a child or I'm going to treat her like a child. But we do it. We get very controlling, especially people who have these insecurities and maybe come from some dysfunction. And there's a whole gamut of reasons why we might do it. We're going to talk about it today.
Yes. Yep. Yes.
Okay, so I want to first give the listeners a little lowdown on, like, you're not just a good copywriter on your website, but you are also a licensed psychologist and performance coach specializing in empowering high-achieving female CEOs to overcome personal and professional challenges. So you focus on inner child work, which that we're going to hit there today, and leadership development, and you have developed the Powerhouse Paradox. And you've got a freebie at the end, so stick around. You're going to want to hear it and where to go to get it. Let's just go ahead and dive in. I want to talk about this drama triangle. I had not heard this before, and so, of course, I've been researching it since you said it. But can you just first tell us what it is, and then we'll dive into it?
Yes, it is. It's my favorite. It's like my North Star in all of the work that I do. When clients come on board, it's one of the very first things is like, you have to learn this triangle. So it's an upside down triangle. And essentially what I tell clients is that if you are engaging in some kind of dysfunctional behavior or even feel a pull toward it, right? Just something that's not going to serve your relationship overall or friendships, and it's not coming from a grounded place. So usually in moments of insecurity, jealousy, things like that, you're somewhere on this triangle. So there's 3 roles. There is rescuer. This tends to be women who are fixing or helping in their marriage, right? I know best. I made a career out of this position. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Helping. I love how you say that. Yeah.
Yes. I'm a very well paid rescuer. So there's rescuer. There's also victim. This is anytime you're in a place whenever you feel like you don't have a choice. Because I tell clients, adults always have a choice. We might not feel like we do, and we might not like that choice, but there's always a choice that we can make to, in some way, shape, or form, protect ourselves. Now, there's always going to be exclusions to this, right? We're not talking about extreme situations. This is just day-to-day dynamics.
Sure. And I want to touch on that real quick because I think when we say victim, most people are like, I'm not playing the victim. Like, I don't consider myself the victim. I'm not playing the victim. This is just, maybe I did have this happen, but that's not affecting me now, or I'm not playing in that role. So thank you for explaining it because it's probably a little different than what our mind would first go to.
Absolutely. Well, and the third is perpetrator, right? So the language is fairly outdated. Cartman came up with this. I couldn't even tell you when. And it's one of those, I always just give a disclaimer to people that all of the language in this is probably going to bring up some sort of reaction, and that's okay. That's human. If you can stick with it and just get curious about the role itself, take the language out of it because there is so much heightened emotion behind it. But yeah, truly a victim is Victim is even, my partner is struggling in work, and that means that I have to pick up the load at home so that my children are not affected by this
Mhm.
experience, right? That's a very um, I experience this with my marriage all the time. If my husband and I are going through something and I'm like, well, one of us has to show up for the kids, that's such a normal dynamic. It can
Right.
bring on the victim because it feels like I don't have a choice.
Right.
The reality
Brittany,
is you do.
yeah. Or, on a much lighter scale, your husband consistently forgets to lock the front door and leaves the
Yes.
garage light on. And I'm like, are
Yes.
you serious
Yes.
again?
Yes. Taking the trash out. Forgot to do it. And now the trash has to go out, right? 100%.
Right.
Yes.
What? And I have to do it now.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I have to help him
Yes.
remember.
Yep. Yes. That is victim. And because like in reality, there is a choice. I could choose to let the trash be super stinky in the garage. I just don't like those consequences. Right.
Mhm.
And so what happens is if you sit in a victim, if you get in that place, you can very easily pop up to perpetrator. And all of these move in a flow. So typically, if you start in rescuer, you move into victim if you're not taking care of yourself. And then you can pop up to perpetrator. And perpetrator is just violating someone's boundaries. So making a snarky comment
Mm.
or being like passive aggressive, right?
I mean,
Same
I'm just
here.
saying, yeah,
Same
well,
here.
and us as, jealousy junkies here, we might make a snarky comment or two and take it
Yes.
out on our partner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. 100%. Right. And yes, no, absolutely. And that's all that is. It's just the victim, the place of I don't have a choice and I sit in it too long and then I pop up real quick. The perpetrator, I make a comment, and then what happens is I feel guilty about it. Oh, I wish I didn't
Mhm.
make that comment. I know that it was not okay to like act in this jealousy. And then you move right back over to rescuer because rescuer is unmanaged anxiety. And I'm not tolerating that anxiety in my body. And so I'm going to fix it.
Mm.
And then it continues.
Is it
Right. So
always
it's a
kinda that
cycle.
path, or can you, like, bounce in another way, or it does typically follow kinda that?
So typically, it does. I always say never, especially when it comes to
Right.
humans and relationships. Typically, it's got this, like, one directional, you kinda just hop around it, and I don't wanna say there's a methodology to it, but there kind of is, right?
Oh, yeah, okay.
You don't stay in perpetrator very long. Usually, it's a very quick little jab. It's a very quick little, like, "Oof, you did this, so now I'm gonna go and buy this purse that I really, really want," whatever it is, right?
Mm,
Even though it's not in the budget, I don't know. It's just an
right.
example. And then, oh gosh, now I feel anxious. So now I'm gonna move real quick over here, back over into rescuer. I usually say rescuer is home base.
Okay.
And you move quick between victim and perpetrator. So you really have to pay attention to where you're at.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about, when someone has this, like, jealous meltdown. They're triggered,
Yeah.
they're that feeling of almost like, "I have no control," and so I was trying to almost walk through because usually what happened, like, we feel it, and then we lash out,
Mhm.
and then we feel guilty, and
Yes.
then we
Yep.
feel it, and we lash out, and we feel
Yep.
guilty.
Yes. Yep. And like the intricacy there too, and where I use this model is overlapping the inner child model on top of it.
Okay.
So your teenager tends to be this piece of you that's a little bit more black and white. They really want justice, they want fairness. Addiction tends to be acted out here. That is
Mm.
rescuer and perpetrator. Is when you feel one up, you feel better than someone, right? In some way, shape, or form. And
Mm.
it's the little, that 5-year-old, that really vulnerable piece of you that comes online that you might experience in a jealous meltdown. And that's the victim.
Right.
Because children are the truest victims, right? It is parents' jobs to protect them. And so, yeah.
God, well, so you made a comment when we were just talking, and I wanna make sure that we bring this up, but oftentimes, the biggest thing that I hear is like, "Well, how do I know? How do I know that this person's right for me or not right for me? Or how do I know that this is something I should be upset about? Or it's just my jealousy? Or like, how can
Mm,
I be certain that this person is not gonna do what I fear they will do. And it's that child that wants the certainty.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yes, yes, right. Like developmentally, the stage that we are at as children, we want things to make sense. This is why it's so hard for toddlers and little bitties, like 4 or 5 years old, when mom or dad does something that's out of character for them. So
Mm,
maybe they raise their voice and we're not used to it. Maybe they decide they're not going to come and play a game with us. And we really want them to come and play a game with us because we're very egocentric at this age. The whole world revolves around us,
mm,
right? I mean, as
right,
babies, it has to, or
right.
like you might die, right? Like to be
Yeah.
super dramatic, but the world has to revolve around you as a little bitty. And you're slowly having to progress past this stage as you get older. If you never made it past that stage, that's still the belief. And we get stuck there. We get frozen in developmental stages. If our caregiver, for whatever reason, no blame or shame to that, hard being a parent.
Yeah.
If they have not healthily helped you move through these different stages of actually, mom still loves you, and I'm not going to go jump on the trampoline for the 67th time, but
Mhm.
man, I love you. And I'm going to repair over and over and over again. Right. If that doesn't happen, if that repair doesn't happen over and over again, then psychologically we get frozen at that stage and we regress. And meaning we kind of move into a younger state of being. The 5-year-old comes online that there's unfinished business here. And I teach my clients to essentially use this as a roadmap. So if 5-year-old's coming online and it is feeling like I need this certainty, I
Mm,
need to know if things are going to be okay. The reality of a relationship is we never know 100%. The only person we can never be abandoned by is ourselves. That's the only person that we can
mm,
100% count on, right? And I think it's an invitation when that 5-year-old shows up and this work is continually being put in front of us. And it's an invitation to come back to that space and time and to be like, hey, 5-year-old, I'm going to take care of you. And
right.
the reality is actually, if this doesn't go the way that I want it to, even if we feel uncertain, I can take care of you. I can
Mhm.
help tend to those emotions and we can move up and off of. So, like the victim, the 5-year-old, is all about protection. That's how you get off of the drama triangle. It's about self care and setting a limit for yourself. So, I will not tolerate X, Y, and Z. Otherwise, here's the consequence.
Mhm.
Right? That's how ideally we're protecting children. So that's how we have to come in and reparent ourselves in that moment.
Oh,
Does it
that's an
make sense?
interesting point. Yeah, so, like, this is why parents say you can't play in the road.
Yes.
You can't play in the
Yes.
street. You can't ride your bike in the street.
Yes.
There are boundaries,
Yes.
and we
Yep.
kind of abandon those that was hard to say. We kind of abandon our boundaries in these situations where we're kind of, maybe struggling to get out of that child stage,
Yeah.
our attachment style, all of that that's playing in there where we don't either set boundaries or we don't set them until we're really pissed off. And then we're like,
Yes.
okay, this is a hard set
Yes.
boundary that I'm doing.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that one of the really important things that you said, I just want to like say it again for it to sink in with people is the child is the one that wants that guarantee. It's like part of the stakes of being in a relationship is that it might not go how you want it to go or how you hope it goes or how you expect it to go. It's like that's the ante that you're putting in there of eh, this isn't a guarantee. And I think we feel like that when we get into a relationship, when we say, okay, you're committed to me, I'm committed to you. We're going to get married. We're going to have kids. We're going to do this thing. And that's my guarantee. That takes me that now I'm safe with this
Yes.
person, which a lot of times I see that too, where maybe we weren't safe growing up. And then we just kind of transfer like, okay, now you're going to be the one to make me safe. And now I'm going to feel safe with you.
Yeah.
And then we're
Yes.
destroyed when that
Yes.
doesn't happen or when someone's
Yes.
human and they make a mistake.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, humans are messy. I always say the most dangerous thing you can do in life is talk to another human being and be in a relationship with them. Like the most dangerous thing you can do. Like
That's right. Yeah, I love it.
There's nothing messier. We're so human.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so you were talking about, like, how the heck do we get off this like, I want out of the triangle. I'm tired of bouncing from corner to well, not corner yeah, from
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
good.
corner to corner, I guess, whatever. I'm tired of bouncing in this triangle. Well, get me off of this thing. What do I do?
Yeah. Yes. Most of it is about setting a boundary and knowing your limits, but there's also some nervous system work. So especially if you're in rescue or if you're in this place of like, "Oh, I wanna make it better, I wanna make it better," there's something happening inside of your body, there's activation that needs to be tended to. So I always tell people you have to have a go-to coping skill in the moment and one that you've practiced. So one, like, notice it when it shows up and write it down. This is something I want to tend to, but also for me, I will go and run. If I get
Mm,
real like fixy and like itchy, I'm like, "Ooh," I'm grabbing my shoes and I'm taking the kids and we're going for a run.
yeah.
You have to get the activation out of your body. And then also like because it's your job to manage that anxiety. What you're doing in rescuer is you're actually putting that anxiety on your partner or whoever it is that you're talking to. So I've been known to walk around like this, right? Like with my arms like this, of like I'm trying to contain.
Like this, I'm trying to not have this spill over on you. Well,
Yes.
that's such a good thing because that's what we do. It's almost like when you're jealous and you're feeling insecure in situations, especially in romantic relationships, it's like, get this out of me.
Yes.
I don't want to feel this. It feels gross. It feels shameful. It feels uncomfortable. I want it
Yes.
out of me and I don't care
Yes.
the path that I leave
Yes.
of, just destroying everyone around me or my partner really, and potentially maybe the you know, pretty girl or guy or whatever. But
Yep. Yep.
we want it out. And so there are other healthier strategies to get it out, is what you're
Mhm.
saying.
Yes. 100%. Right. So I will have clients who'll come in and maybe they've experienced infidelity, but we're working through it. Right. And the situation shows up and they can see it coming a mile away. And they're like, oh, I'm triggered. This is showing up. And I will tell them it's your job to pick up your shoes and go for a run.
Mm,
And then you bring that anxiety in here and we process it in this container because the reality is in that situation, right? Perhaps they've already set the boundary. So if you talk with this person, I'm not comfortable with that and I will be exiting this relationship. So the stake and the consequence, what happens if it's not honored? That in and of itself pulls you off of that triangle. And if the itchiness is still there, then that is yours to process, whether that is
right.
through EMDR, therapy, some sort go lift weights, right? But
Mhm.
get the activation up and out of your body. I think most people have to remember there are multiple ways to do that. We kind of get tunnel vision, especially with big emotions like jealousy. It's like, nope, it's your fault that I'm feeling this way.
Yeah.
And so you need to do this to fix it,
Yeah.
right? And that's perpetrators.
Right. Yeah. Oh, so good. I wanted to can you give us, maybe one or two ways or thoughts or just examples of like how we would know which we're in, and then again, kind of like, okay, I don't want to be playing the victim. What do I do? I don't want to be playing
Yes.
the persecutor. What do I do?
Yep. Yep. So victim is really easy. You feel like you don't have a choice. Anytime you feel like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, you're in victim, right?
Yeah.
You also tend to feel a little bit younger. So if you start having these thoughts of like, oh, what are you wrong with you? Right? That's little. That one is all about self-care. That one is all about there's something missing here. I need to tend to myself. So initially, I need to set a protective boundary. Maybe that is I need time to think about what I want to do. Or I need to go to the gym 3 extra times or go get like body work done, whatever it is, right? I need to take care of myself because there is a choice to be made here. I just can't see it.
Mm.
I'm feeling too little, right? So that's victim. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think you make a good point about like we don't have to know what we're gonna do right now. And I
Yes.
remember feeling like that, like I gotta solve this and fix it right now because because I feel gross. I don't feel good. And I gotta figure out how to make that go away right now. And
Yep.
so, like, we don't have to. You can come back to it. You can figure it out, take the time, and then come back and say, "Okay, here are my choices." Right?
Mhm, mhm. Yep, I always say the biggest, like, functional adult, that's just the phrasing that I use from this model, is curiosity. So if we can slow down long enough to find our curiosity, then you have found your adult. The parent has
Mm,
reparented and has entered the building, right? Because usually it takes someone who's older and outside of the situation to be like, "Hey, we can't run the street because like, there's a car coming."
right,
Um, Kids can't see that.
right, right.
Yes, 100%.
Okay, so
Uh,
that's victim. That's how we know we're
yeah.
in victim.
Yep. Perpetrator tends to feel explosive. Perpetrators also quit. So
Mm,
that one tends to be the hardest. It can be a little bit more covert, so it can come through like the snarky little comment, but you can feel it coming up and out, right? There's a real like your behavior is coming at someone,
yeah.
and it tends to feel bigger.
Yeah, I kinda describe it like, in the cartoons where they're, like, blowing fire or, like, venom or what,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
that's sort of what it feels like, right?
Absolutely, right? And, like, the motion is very at versus rescuer, you feel pulled in.
Mm,
This is like, "Ugh." Also tends to feel very angry, and you
yeah.
feel like you're better than someone. So, there's a reason the triangle sits like an inverted triangle, right? When you're in rescuer and you're in perpetrator, you feel better than someone.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, so they're at
Yes.
the top
Mhm.
because we
Yep.
didn't label where they were, so they're at
Yes.
the top
They're at the
and you
top.
feel better than.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
so
So
good.
I've seen, like, activities done where you will actually put rescuer at the top of a ladder, the victim sits on the floor, and the perpetrator will sit on, like, a chair. And that's the order of essentially how you feel. Rescuer is, like, high and mighty. I know what is best. I can fix
Mhm.
it, I can make it better. So, essentially, I'm playing God. So they get to stand at the top of the ladder. Victim is, I'm not capable of taking care of myself. They sit on the floor, and the chair is perpetrator, right? So I am better than, but I'm not so high and mighty that I'm gone.
Got it. Okay, so the rescuer, I think that's the one I have the hardest, like, I'm trying to relate it to, like, in
Yes.
a jealous meltdown, what that would look like
Mhm.
in that scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, yes. I see it a lot with my clients as, like, the meltdown has happened because the meltdown is happening in perpetrator, right? When things come up and
Right, when
out.
you explode.
Yes. And then it's, I feel guilty. Um, next time let's go ahead and shift and let's actually set some new boundaries. And right, they go into planner mode.
Mm,
Or, in the future, we just shouldn't go to this place anymore. And I actually think it would be better if you did X, Y, and Z. So there's a focus on saying you should do X, Y, and Z. A boundary is all about yourself. It's very protective,
got it. Yeah.
right? So there's a very, I'm going into planning mode. I'm going into let me make it better. Um,
Mm,
Female CEOs really are good at this because you see a few steps ahead
right.
and so let me bring some of the CEO into the relationship and let's strategize, right? That's fixing.
Let's come up with a plan so that I don't ever feel like this again,
That's
so
exactly
that you don't
right.
ever make me feel like this again.
That is right. Let's come up with Q1, Q2, Q3, right? Like, let's come up with all the goals. Let's
Right?
hit our KPRs, like all of
Yeah.
it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. That tends to be what rescuer looks like. It can also look like, um, I've had this big meltdown and now my partner is feeling really sad because they're experiencing the consequences of my feelings, which are valid and real. But hey, it wasn't that bad and it's really okay. But
Mm,
you really have worked on X, Y, and Z. Let me make it better
yeah.
because they can't tolerate seeing a partner sit in that emotion.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point because I get asked that all the time, like, "What should the partner do of somebody who's
Yes.
jealous? What should they do? What should they do?" So, there are episodes coming, folks. It's happening. It is happening, but so thank you for touching on that. One thing I did wanna ask real quick is I keep talking about, like, the person who just kinda explodes and they fire off their comments and they do that thing because that's how I was. But and still, tend to do that if I'm really triggered. But there's also the person who they shut down and they go, like,
Yes.
cold and they don't say anything. In fact,
Mhm.
I'm not talking to you anymore.
Yep.
I'm giving you
Yep.
short answer. Is that still, like, the persecutor?
Yep.
It's
Oh,
still that.
it's punishing, right?
Yeah,
In the
okay.
same way that a parent can give you the silent treatment, "I won't talk to you till you stop crying," right? Wipe
Yeah.
that look off your face. That is punishment just as much as, like, spanking a child.
Mhm.
So, 100%.
Or
Yeah.
you have to eat all your green beans before you get
Yeah,
up from the
yeah.
table.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you got to sleep at the
That's
table, whatever
still
it is.
here.
Yeah.
That's still here.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Well, Dr. Brittany McGeehan, this has been so amazing. I love this topic of the drama triangle. It's going to be so helpful for people. They're going to constantly now like, oh, I'm over here. I'm over here.
Yeah.
And bouncing out of that. So one last like tip, trick, technique, thought that we can have to get us out of that triangle.
Yeah, is to develop a relationship between little you and adult you and pull them out from yourself so you can see them, right? That's like the
Mm,
key to reparenting. And that's the key to building self trust is if
right.
I can know that I can rely on this older, this more functional, grounded version of me to come and take care of little me. I mean, that's everything, right? If you can build that muscle, then like every relationship is in the palm of your hand.
Uh, Fantastic. You do have something free that you're giving to the listener.
Yeah.
Tell us what it is, and this will be in the show notes.
Yes, yes, I'm so excited. So I have developed a new framework called the Powerhouse Paradox. And with that, it's looking at the overlap, right, between childhood experiences and executive CEO behavior where you're just killing it. I actually have a quiz and I have several different profiles that go with this framework to show sort of where you're falling. So if you hear this and you're curious, then you're like, oh, I wonder if that applies to me. I have a quiz to say yes or no. And it gives you not only sort of the name of your profile, but it also gives you information on how to connect with an inner child based on where you come out in order to develop a set of skills that are going to best serve you as you move forward. So it's kind of
Oh,
like handing you the roadmap
fantastic.
to relationships. Yeah.
Yes, I love it. I love quizzes. I think everybody loves those. Like, put me in a box. Tell me
Yes.
what I'm like. I love it.
Yes.
So, thank you so much. That again, that'll be linked in the show notes. I appreciate you being here, Dr. Brittany McGeehan. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you for having me.